Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath. The massive warship drifted through the black void of space, far from Earth and the other human colonies. Stars glittered like tiny diamonds through the main view screen. The ship had been on patrol for 18 months now, hunting pirates and keeping the peace in this forgotten corner of the galaxy. The Titan's Wrath was humanity's pride. 2,000 crew members called it home. The ship stretched nearly 3 miles from nose to tail, covered in weapons and armor that could punch holes through asteroids. At its heart sat the quantum core, a piece of alien technology that humans had found and rebuilt. Nobody really understood how it worked, but it made their ships faster and stronger than anything else in space. Morrison rubbed his tired eyes and checked the time. Another quiet day in the middle of nowhere. His crew was getting restless. Some of the younger officers wanted action, wanted to fight something bigger than smugglers and raiders. Morrison just wanted everyone to get home safe. Commander, Lisa Parker looked up from her tactical station. Her fingers danced over the controls as she ran another weapons check. Parker was the best tactical officer Morrison had ever worked with. She could hit a target the size of a coin from 1,000 miles away. "Captain," she said, "we're getting a transmission from Earth Command. It's coded Priority 1. Morrison's stomach dropped. Priority 1 meant emergency. It meant something bad was happening back home. He walked over to the communications station, where Lieutenant Ben Rogers was working to clean up the signal. "It's badly damaged, sir," Rogers said. "The message traveled a long way to reach us. I can make out some of it, but there are big gaps." "Put it through," Morrison ordered. The speaker crackled with static. Then came the voice of Admiral Hayes, from Earth Command, broken and distant. "All ships, immediate threat. 3 alien empires formed alliance, calling themselves the Trinary Pact." The message cut out for several seconds. When it came back, Morrison caught fragments. "Ultimatum: surrender all colonies, retreat to Sol system, or face total destruction." Rogers worked frantically to piece together more of the transmission. After 20 minutes, they had the full picture. Morrison felt cold as he read the complete message. 3 alien empires had joined together to form the Trinary Pact. The Zolothian Empire controlled over 400 star systems. Their ships were made of living crystal and their weapons could melt planets. The Vorthon Confederacy had bioorganic ships that could heal themselves and share thoughts like a hive mind. The Crexian Trade Dominion owned half the galaxy's trade routes and had defensive technology that made their ships nearly impossible to destroy. Together, these 3 empires commanded thousands of warships and controlled most of the known galaxy. They saw humanity as dangerous newcomers who had spread too fast and taken too much. The aliens wanted humans to give up all their colony worlds and hide in the Sol system like scared children. Earth had been given 72 hours to decide. Morrison called his senior officers to the briefing room. Commander Parker sat across. From him, her face pale. Chief Engineer Amy Sullivan checked her tablet, reading reports from the engine room. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the ship's science officer, stared at star charts with worried eyes. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Hughes, who commanded the ship's Marines, cracked his knuckles and looked ready for a fight. "How many ships do we have?" Morrison asked. Parker checked her files. 12 ships like the Titan's Wrath, scattered across human space. Maybe 40 smaller vessels, against thousands of alien warships. "What about our colonies?" asked Hughes. 37 worlds, with about 200 million people total, Walsh replied. "Most have basic defenses, but nothing that could stop a real fleet." Sullivan looked up from her tablet. "The quantum core is running better than ever, sir. I don't understand the technology, but it's giving us more power than we should be able to generate. The ship can move faster and hit harder than anything else out there." Morrison nodded. The quantum core was humanity's secret weapon. They had found it in a dead alien ship 50 years ago. Human scientists had managed to copy it, but they still didn't know how it really worked. What they did know was that it made impossible things possible. A new message came through from Earth. Admiral Hayes appeared on the main screen looking old and tired. "All ship commanders, Earth has decided. We will not surrender. We will not abandon our people. Every human ship is ordered to defend our colonies by any means necessary. The transmission ended. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Humanity was going to war against impossible odds. Over the next few hours, more messages came in. The aliens had not waited for Earth's answer. 3 outer colonies were under attack. The desperate calls for help echoed through space as alien fleets destroyed human defenses like they were made of paper. New Seattle fell first. The colony had 2 million people and a small defense fleet. The Zolothian crystal ships appeared without warning and began bombing from orbit. The human defenders lasted 6 hours before their ships were destroyed and their cities were burning. Paradise Valley was next. The Vorthon bioships surrounded the planet like a living wall. They didn't bomb the cities. Instead, they began changing the air itself, making it impossible for humans to breathe. 3 million colonists had hours to live unless help arrived. Finally, the Crexian Trade Dominion hit Port Richmond, humanity's biggest trading post outside Earth space. They didn't use weapons at all. Instead, they used some kind of economic warfare, shutting down all trade and communications. The colony began starving within days. Morrison stood on his bridge and listened to the calls for help. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. The smart thing would be to rush to defend the colonies. That's what the aliens expected. That's what any normal commander would do. But Morrison was not normal. He had studied every great military leader in human history. He knew that sometimes you had to take huge risks to win. Sometimes you had to do the unexpected. Set course for the Zolothian home system, he ordered. Parker stared at him. Sir, that's the heart of their empire. They'll have hundreds of ships. There. Exactly, Morrison replied. They won't expect us. Every alien commander is thinking like they always have. They believe in slow, careful warfare. They expect us to defend and react. We're going to attack instead. Rogers looked up from his station. Captain, we'd be going into their most heavily defended system with just 1 ship. Morrison smiled grimly. 1 ship with a quantum core, they don't understand. 1 ship with 2,000 humans who refuse to give up. 1 ship that's about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. He turned to Sullivan. How fast can we get there? At maximum quantum drive. 18 hours, she replied. Do it. The Titan's wrath turned away from the burning colonies and jumped into quantum space. Behind them, human worlds fought and died. Ahead of them waited the most powerful empire in the galaxy, secure in their crystal palaces and certain of their victory. They were about to learn that humans were different. When humanity was threatened, they didn't just fight back. They brought war to their enemy's doorstep and left nothing but ruins behind. The Titan's wrath dropped out of quantum space right in the middle of the Zolothian home system. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge watching the main screen as hundreds of crystal ships appeared around them. The alien vessels looked like giant jewels floating in space, their surfaces glowing with inner light. Contact, reported Lieutenant Ben Rogers from his station. 200 ships, sir. They're arranging themselves in perfect geometric patterns around the planet. Commander Lisa Parker checked her weapons systems. They're trying to surround us, Captain. Classic battle formation. They want to hit us from all sides at once. Morrison nodded. The aliens were doing exactly what he expected. They fought like they had been fighting for thousands of years. Careful plans, perfect formations, everything by the book. But humans didn't follow alien books. Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his science station with wide eyes. Captain, I'm reading some strange energy patterns from our quantum core. It's not just giving us power anymore, it's doing something to space around us. What do you mean? Morrison asked. The core is bending reality somehow. We're not completely in normal space anymore. We're existing partially in several dimensions at the same time. Chief Engineer Amy Sullivan's voice came over the comm from engineering. Sir, the quantum core is responding to something. It's like it knows we're in danger. Power output is increasing beyond anything we've seen before. The first Zolothian ships opened fire. Beams of pure energy that could crack moons shot toward the Titan's wrath. Morrison watched the weapons approach and felt strangely calm. He could see exactly where each beam would hit and somehow knew they wouldn't matter. The alien energy weapons passed right through the human ship, like it wasn't there. The Zolothians fired again and again, their perfect crystal formations lighting up space with deadly light. None of it touched the Titan's wrath. "Impossible," whispered Commander Parker. "Their weapons should have destroyed us 10 times over." Morrison smiled. "Return fire. All weapons." The Titan's wrath struck back. Human weapons were different from alien ones. They didn't just destroy things. They changed them at the most basic level. Where the ship's guns hit, Zolothian crystal ships didn't just explode. They stopped existing in any recognizable form. The alien formations began to break apart as ship after ship vanished under human fire. The Zolothians tried to adapt, moving their vessels into new patterns. It didn't matter. Morrison seemed to know what they would do before they did it. "Target their command ship," he ordered. Parker locked onto the largest crystal vessel, a massive pyramid that glowed like a star. "Firing!" The Zolothian flagship didn't explode. Instead, it began to change. The crystal structure twisted and folded in on itself until it looked like a piece of impossible art. The alien crew inside was probably still alive, but their ship had become something that couldn't fly or fight. Panic spread through the alien fleet. Ships that had fought together for centuries began firing wildly in all directions. Some shot at the human ship. Others fired at empty space where they thought they saw targets. A few began shooting at each other. Technician Ryan Brooks worked with the ship's computer system. The artificial intelligence was learning to predict alien movements faster than any human could think. "Sir, the AI is showing me their next 3 moves. They're going to try to ram us." Morrison saw it too. 12 crystal ships were accelerating toward the Titan's wrath, ready to sacrifice themselves to stop the human vessel. "Let them come." The alien ships passed right through the human vessel like it was made of smoke. They crashed into each other on the far side, their crystal hull shattering into a million pieces. Dr. Walsh was reading his instruments with shaking hands. "Captain, we're not just in multiple dimensions anymore. We're creating temporal echoes. There are copies of our ship appearing all over the system." Morrison looked at the main screen. He could see them now. Dozens of images of the Titan's wrath flickered in and out of existence throughout the Zolothian system. Each one looked real. Each one was firing at alien ships. The enemy didn't know which targets were real and which were ghosts. The battle, that should have lasted days, was over in 6 hours. 200 of the galaxy's most advanced warships were reduced to glittering debris. The Zolothian homeworld's orbital defenses lay in ruins. Millions of crystal cities on the planet below had gone dark as their power systems failed. Morrison opened communications to the planet. His face appeared on screens across the alien world as billions of Zolothians watched in terror. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Titan's Wrath," he said. "Your fleet attacked our colonies without warning. Your empire declared war on humanity. Now you see the result." The response came from the Crystal Palace where the Zolothian Emperor ruled. The alien leader was tall and thin, made of living crystal, like his ships. His voice was cold and hard when he spoke. "You are one ship against an empire of thousands of worlds. This victory means nothing. The other members of the pact are already coming to destroy you. Your species will be extinct within days." Morrison's smile was not pleasant. "Your empire had the strongest fleet in this part of the galaxy. Had. Now you have nothing. But I'm not here to destroy worlds or kill civilians. I'm here to end this war before more people die." "Never," the Emperor replied. "The pact will crush humanity. We will not surrender to inferior beings." Morrison sighed. He had hoped the aliens would be smart enough to accept defeat. Instead, he gave a signal to Commander Parker. 3 of the largest military installations on the planet disappeared, not destroyed by explosions, but simply gone as if they had never existed. The weapons that erased them seemed to strike from impossible angles, hitting targets that should have been protected by planetary shields. "The next time I fire," Morrison said calmly, "it will be your palace." The Emperor's crystal face showed no emotion, but Morrison could see fear in the alien's glowing eyes. The Vorthan and Crexian fleets are already on their way. Thousands of ships, you cannot fight them all. Watch me, Morrison replied and cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Hughes had joined them on the bridge, his Marines ready for whatever came next. The man looked at Morrison with something like worship in his eyes. Sir, Hughes said, the men are ready for anything. What you did here today, it's like watching gods fight. Dr. Walsh was still studying his readings. Captain, the quantum core has changed us somehow. I'm detecting alterations in the crew's brain patterns, enhanced reflexes, improved pattern recognition. It's like we're becoming something more than human. Morrison felt it too. He could see patterns in space and time that he had never noticed before. Every decision felt perfect, every action perfectly timed. The quantum core wasn't just powering their ship, it was evolving them. Set course out of the system, he ordered. The other packed fleets will be here soon. As the Titan's wrath prepared to jump back into quantum space, Morrison sent one final message on all frequencies. Every ship, every planet, every space station in this part of the galaxy would hear it. This is humanity. We offered peace. You chose war. Remember what happened. Here today. We are coming for the rest of your fleets. Run while you still can. The human ship vanished into quantum space, leaving behind only wreckage and terror. The strongest empire in the galaxy had fallen in a single day to one human vessel. Across the stars, the other members of the Trinary Pact began to realize they might have made a terrible mistake. The Vorthan Confederacy sent their grand swarm to destroy humanity. 1,000 living ships moved through space like a plague of insects. Each bio-vessel was the size of a city, grown from alien flesh and bone instead of metal and circuits. They could heal damage by growing new parts and share thoughts through invisible connections. Commander Laura Stone stood beside Captain Morrison on the bridge of the Titan's wrath. She had replaced Lisa Parker after Parker got promoted to command. Another human ship. Stone was younger but just as smart, and the quantum core seemed to like her. When she touched the control panels, the ship responded faster than it ever had before. The swarm is moving toward Earth space, reported Lieutenant Tyler Green from Navigation. They're not trying to hide. 1,000 ships in perfect formation like they want us to see them coming. Morrison nodded. The Vorthans were trying to scare humanity into surrender. They thought their numbers would make humans give up without a fight. They were wrong. Dr. Kevin Walsh had been studying the quantum core for weeks since the battle with the Zolothians. What he found made him both excited and terrified. Captain, the core is changing. It's not just bending space anymore. It's responding to our emotions. The angrier we get, the more powerful it becomes. Chief Engineer Amy Sullivan's voice came from engineering. Sir, I'm reading power levels that shouldn't be possible. The core is pulling energy from somewhere else. Maybe other dimensions. Maybe time itself. Morrison felt the change too. Every human on the ship was becoming something more than they used to be. Their reflexes were faster. Their minds were sharper. They could see patterns in combat that no normal person should be able to understand. The swarm has stopped, announced Green. They're between two star systems in empty space. No planets around. Nothing to protect. Morrison smiled. The aliens had made a mistake. They were so confident in their numbers that they had moved into the perfect place for humanity to strike. No civilians to worry about. No planets to accidentally damage. Just enemy ships and empty void. Jump us right into the middle of them, Morrison ordered. The Titan's wrath appeared inside the grand swarm like a ghost materializing in a crowd. Living ships surrounded them on all sides, their organic hulls pulsing with alien life. Some looked like giant worms. Others resembled massive jellyfish or sea creatures from humanity's deepest oceans. The bioships opened fire immediately. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they shot streams of acid and clouds of poison gas. Living projectiles that looked like angry animals flew toward the human ship, trying to bite through its hull. None of it worked. The Titan's wrath existed in too many dimensions for the organic weapons to hit. The alien attacks passed through empty space where the ship appeared to be, while the real vessel struck back from impossible angles. Human weapons did terrible things to the living ships. Where normal guns would just punch holes, The quantum-powered weapons rewrote the basic structure of organic matter. Bioships began to dissolve or transform into things that could not live or fight. But the Vorthons had one advantage the Zolothians didn't have. They shared a group mind. When one ship learned something, they all learned it instantly. The swarm began to adapt, trying new tactics as fast as they could think of them. "They're surrounding us in 3 dimensions," reported Stone, "trying to predict where we'll appear next." Morrison felt the quantum core respond to his determination. The ship didn't just move through space anymore. It moved through time, appearing seconds before the aliens expected it, and striking from the past and future at the same time. Sergeant Nicole Carter led her Marines in something that should have been impossible. The quantum field around the Titan's wrath opened doorways through space itself. Carter and her soldiers stepped through portals and appeared inside the largest bioship while their own vessel was miles away. The inside of the Vorthon ship was like being inside a living creature. The walls were made of flesh that moved and breathed. Strange organs pumped fluids through tubes that looked like blood vessels. The air was thick with alien smells. Carter's Marines moved through the ship like they had been born for war. The quantum energy that changed their ship had changed them too. They were faster and stronger than any normal human. Their powered armor responded to their thoughts instead of their movements. "Find the brain," Carter ordered her squad. "Every living thing has a control center somewhere." They fought through corridors of meat and bone, past alien defenders that looked like walking nightmares. The Vorthons inside their ships were insect-like creatures with too many legs and eyes like black jewels. They fought bravely but couldn't match human determination. Deep in the ship's core, the Marines found what they were looking for. A massive brain the size of a building, connected to thousands of nerve cables that ran throughout the vessel. This was how the bioships talked to each other. This was the source of their shared thoughts. Carter planted quantum charges around the brain. The explosives didn't just destroy things. They created failures in the connections between minds. When the charges went off, the effect spread through the invisible links between ships. One by one, the biovessels of the Grand Swarm began to attack each other. Their shared mind broke apart into 1,000 separate thoughts, each one angry and confused. Ships that had worked together for centuries suddenly saw their neighbors as enemies. The Titan's wrath watched from a safe distance as the swarm tore itself apart. Living ships bit and clawed at each other with organic weapons. Acid and poison filled the space between vessels as they died in agony. In 6 hours, the greatest biofleet in the galaxy was dead. 1,000 ships that had taken decades to grow were reduced to floating meat. The Vorthon Confederacy's main weapon was gone, but there was still one enemy left. The Crexian Trade Dominion had been watching both battles from their hidden bases. They were the smartest of the 3 empires, and they had learned from the mistakes of their allies. The Crexians didn't send warships to fight humanity. Instead, they tried economic warfare. They cut off all trade routes to human space. They bribed neutral species to refuse deals with Earth. They tried to starve humanity into surrender without firing a shot. It didn't work. Humans were too stubborn to give up just because things got difficult. When the aliens made trade impossible, humans found new ways to get what they needed. When they couldn't buy something, they built it themselves. Dr. Rachel Martinez, the ship's chief medical officer, made an important discovery while treating crew members who had been exposed to quantum energy for too long. Their bodies were changing at the genetic level. They healed faster, they thought quicker. They were becoming the next step in human evolution. "Captain," she reported, "the crew isn't just getting stronger. We're becoming something new, something that might not be entirely human anymore." Morrison felt the truth of her words. He could sense things that normal people couldn't see. Patterns in the fabric of reality itself. The quantum core wasn't just a weapon or a power source. It was a doorway to something greater. Finally, the Crexians gave up on economic warfare and deployed their merchant fleet. These weren't normal trade ships. They were mobile fortresses disguised as cargo haulers, with defensive systems that could protect entire star systems. The final battle was coming. The Titan's wrath turned toward the Crexian home system, where 1,000 merchant warriors waited. behind shields that had never been broken. Morrison looked at his crew and saw the future of humanity staring back at him. They were no longer the same species that had left Earth. They were something new, something dangerous, and something that would reshape the galaxy forever. The Crexian home system was the most defended place in the galaxy. 1,000 merchant ships formed a perfect sphere around their planet, each vessel bristling with defensive systems that had protected the trade dominion for centuries. There, shields could stop any weapon. Their armor could survive the explosion of stars. They had learned from watching humanity destroy the other two empires. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath and studied the enemy formation. The Crexians were smart. They weren't trying to attack or chase his ship. Instead, they had created a trap. A massive energy cage powered by their entire fleet, designed to contain anything that came near their world. "They've adapted our own tactics against us," said Commander Laura Stone. "They know we phase through normal space, so they've created a multidimensional prison. If we get too close, they'll lock us in place and destroy us slowly." Lieutenant Colonel Sam Hughes had brought his expanded Marine force to the bridge. The soldiers looked more like superhumans than regular people now. The quantum energy had changed them into something faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "We could try boarding actions," Hughes suggested. "My people can move through the quantum tunnels to hit multiple ships at once." Morrison shook his head. "There are too many of them. Even with our abilities, we can't board 1,000 ships simultaneously." Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his science station with worry in his eyes. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. The Crexians aren't just using defensive technology. They're using the same kind of quantum manipulation we are. They've been studying the wreckage from our previous battles." Chief Engineer Amy Sullivan's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Sir, they're right. I'm reading quantum signatures from their fleet. They've figured out how to copy some of our technology. Not perfectly, but enough to make this dangerous." Morrison felt the quantum core respond to his thoughts. The alien technology at the heart of his ship had grown beyond anything its original builders could have imagined. It wasn't just giving them power anymore, it was offering them the ability to reshape reality itself. But that kind of power came with a terrible cost. Morrison could feel himself changing with each battle. His crew was becoming something beyond human understanding. They were turning into gods, and gods didn't always remember what it was like to be mortal. "There's only one way to break their defense," Morrison said quietly. "Full activation of the quantum core. Push it beyond all safety limits." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. They would either win completely or destroy themselves trying. Commander Stone checked. Her readings. "Sir, full activation could tear a hole in space itself. We might not survive it." "If we don't try, humanity dies," Morrison replied. "The Crexians will rebuild the Alliance. They'll come after Earth with everything they have. This is our only chance to end it." He turned to Sullivan. "Do it. Full power to the quantum core." Deep in the ship's engine room, Sullivan pushed the alien technology past every safety barrier. Energy levels climbed beyond anything previously recorded. The Titan's Wrath began to exist in more dimensions than physics said were possible. The ship changed. It became something that couldn't be described in normal words. Parts of it existed in the past, parts in the future, parts in places that had no names. The crew found themselves able to see and think in ways that hurt their minds to understand. Morrison felt reality bend around him like soft clay. He could see every possible outcome of the battle at the same time. Past, present, and future became meaningless concepts. He was becoming something that existed outside of time itself. The Crexian energy cage couldn't hold something that existed in every dimension simultaneously. The Titan's Wrath phased through their trap like it was made of paper. Their shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, were useless against attacks that came from angles that didn't exist. Hughes led his Marines in the impossible. They appeared inside enemy ships across the entire fleet at the same moment, attacking from positions that were light years apart. Each soldier fought with the strength of 100 normal humans, moving through quantum space like they had been born to it. The Crexian merchant fleet had defensive systems that could protect entire star systems, but they couldn't defend against enemies that attacked from outside the normal flow of time. Human weapons struck targets seconds before they were fired, hitting ships in the past, while the Marines attacked in the present. The alien formations crumbled. Ships that had worked together perfectly for centuries found themselves fighting phantoms that appeared and disappeared without warning. Their shared tactical networks couldn't process enemies that existed in multiple time streams at once. But the Crexians had one final surprise. Their planet itself was a weapon. The entire world began to glow as massive generators deep in its core powered up. They were going to destroy their own system, rather than let humanity win. Morrison saw it coming. In his enhanced state, he could perceive the energy building inside the planet. The Crexians were going to create an explosion that would wipe out everything within a dozen light years. They would kill their own people just to take humanity with them. Not today, Morrison whispered. He reached out with his mind and touched the quantum core. The alien technology responded to his will like it was part of his own body. Energy flowed through dimensions that had no names, surrounding the Crexian planet in a bubble of twisted spacetime. When the planet exploded, the blast was contained in its own private universe. The Crexian homeworld destroyed itself completely, but the explosion never escaped the quantum barrier Morrison had created. Billions of aliens died, but they died alone. The surviving Crexian ships surrendered immediately. Their commanders had watched a human being contain the explosion of an entire planet with his mind. They offered complete capitulation, including reparations they couldn't possibly afford and territory they couldn't spare to give up. Morrison accepted their surrender, but he barely heard their words. The power of the quantum core was overwhelming him. He could reshape the galaxy with a thought. He could make himself and his crew into rulers of all existence. The temptation was almost impossible to resist. Instead, he ordered the core powered down to minimum levels. The ship returned to something resembling normal space, and his crew slowly became recognizably human again. But they would never be the same as they were before. Morrison opened communications to every inhabited system in the galaxy. His message reached billions of beings across thousands of worlds simultaneously. "This is humanity," he said. "We offered peace. You chose war. 3 empires that ruled this galaxy for millennia are now reduced to scattered survivors. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks humans can be conquered or controlled." He paused, looking out at the stars, where alien civilizations watched and waited in terror. "We offer friendship to those who want it. We offer trade to those who need it. But any species that threatens human worlds will face consequences beyond their ability to understand. The galaxy has room for everyone who wants to live in peace." The Titan's wrath turned toward Earth, its hull scarred by impossible battles, and its crew forever changed. Behind them, the ruins of 3 mighty empires drifted in space like monuments to humanity's first steps as a galactic power. Dr. Walsh made one final log entry as they traveled home. The quantum core continued to evolve even at minimum power, suggesting that humanity's transformation had only just begun. In the depths of space, other civilizations watched and wondered if the species that had destroyed the Trinary Pact in mere weeks would come for them next. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was no longer just another species struggling to survive among the stars. They were something new, something dangerous, and something that left only ruins in the wake of those who dared to threaten them.